I just thought with what's going on in Afghanistan, it'd be good to talk to somebody who's actually spent time there and was actually in combat there, and get your take on the withdrawal and what your opinion is of what's happening.
Yeah. So obviously a lot of emotions. I'm sure it's similar to Vietnam vets to see, withdrawal from Vietnam, but Afghanistan is a country that people don't understand, and the U.S. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but we weren't in for the long haul. And when I say that, we spent 20 years there, but if you look at every other country that spent time in Afghanistan, they've all left as well, the Soviets. Mm-hmm. Every country that has gone into Afghanistan, every conqueror has left. Mm-hmm. There's a reason for that.
What is the reason?
The reason is you have to be able and willing and have the stomach to stay for the long term. Mm-hmm. The Taliban were there before we came in, and they're there now. Mm-hmm. They have a vested interest. And the Afghan people, so most people don't understand, Afghans don't identify with a country, with a national government. They identify with their cultural background, tribal background. Where I was in Helmand Province and Musa Kela and Nowzad, they called themselves Pashto because that's what their background was. You had some Dari in there and others, but they don't recognize the national government. So, we try to build a national government modeled, oddly enough, similar to the United States, which will never happen in that country because the majority of that country is still, quite frankly, in the Stone Age. When you look across the landscape, especially where I was, it looks like something out of biblical times. It's pretty emotional because I lost Marines there, had hundreds wounded, and I don't know, it's like any war, I think, in this country, and I trust me, I am grateful for the time. I think the Marine Corps took better care of me than I took care of it. I spent 30 years there. I will never badmouth the Marine Corps. I love the Corps. I love serving my country and will never badmouth my country. But I think if we're, as the United States, as a country, are going to get involved in places like that, we have to be prepared to stay long term. Mm-hmm. To pull out, the Afghans and the Taliban knew we were leaving because we told them multiple times we were leaving, so that they were just waiting us out. Mm-hmm. You can't do that. We just abandon our partners, and Manning's personal opinion is it's going to turn right back into the terrorist haven that it was before 9/11, and we're going to be back in some shape or form, whether it's just airstrikes or anything else. And if we are truly, if we are serious about keeping the world safe from terrorists, which is one of the reasons we went into that country, well, then you can't just arbitrarily walk away. Mm-hmm.
So what would have been victory? There is no victory, is there? It's just sustaining.
There's not a victory. You say victory, you're going in against, we went in against the Taliban. We had achieved victory, a couple of years after we initially went into Afghanistan. But as soon as you allow the Taliban to regain ground, as soon as you allow them the opportunity, just like Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, you pick any terrorist group, if you give them a safe haven and free will, free range to move around, they're going to, and that's exactly what they did. We defeated the Taliban in Afghanistan a couple years after we went in there, but then we, drew down and said, hey, no big deal, we're getting out of here. Well, okay, United States is leaving, so just come right back up. Mm-hmm. Mujahideen when the Soviets went in. And the Taliban are offspring of Mujahideen, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, everybody else. They're all similar. So,
did you think that what you accomplished in that country did it have an impact on safety here at home? and safety across the
Well,
world?
absolutely. We killed the #1 terrorist that planned and masterminded the attacks on this country in September 11th. I mean, it had a direct impact. We had a direct impact on the network. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You can talk to any historian that saw how much we impacted the terrorist networks across the globe. And although I don't like the term global war on terrorism, I mean, there is direct impact. And
But if you stop, it's not like defeating Nazi Germany and it's over. If you stop, it just builds back up.
well, yeah, because they have safe haven. That's the issue with terrorists. There's no national government. It's not a country. They thrive in places that they can and are allowed to.
So it sounds like if you have to maintain constant pressure, pretty much.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that sustainable in Afghanistan over the long term?
I think it has to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you continue, and we look at, I think this country looks at, well, what's the long-term cost to us? Well, okay, what's the long-term cost if we don't? Will this country stomach another 9/11? Will it stomach another attack like that?
Is that what you foresee in the future?
I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you, terrorists aren't stupid this day and age, and we've been cyber attacked multiple times. Do I envision another large-scale attack like 9/11? I could anticipate that, but I mean, most groups now are going after cyber and whatever else, and we've been at war, whether we want to realize it or not, for over 20 years. I mean, with multiple people. So Afghanistan's a tough pill to swallow, but unfortunately, it's like many other places that we just don't have the stomach to stay there long term.
Listening to some of the news agencies from when I was younger, when Russia left Afghanistan, that situation was, a lot of that was blamed on the collapse of the Soviet Union, was the money that they spent there and the resources that went into trying to maintain Afghanistan. And then we spent 20 years there. So can you see that both arguments, or do you feel like the cost is worth?
I think the huge difference, the Soviets went in to conquer Afghanistan. We never went in to conquer Afghanistan. We went in to rid Afghanistan of the Taliban and deny sanctuary for Taliban and other terrorist organizations, which we did initially, but then we get into nation building and want to build a stable democratic government, and that is a tough pill to swallow. For the past almost 7 years, I mean, we've been doing what we term peacekeeping or stabilization, and that was going well, but as soon as you announce that you're going to withdraw, it's, well, okay, game on.
They start getting prepared for the departure of the U.S. troops and taking back over. Can you talk a little bit about what your job was over there and how much time you spent there and when you were there?
So I was there for 7 months. I was a Battalion Commander of 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines in northern Helmand Province, Nowzad District, and Muskela District, southwestern Afghanistan.
Now, was that an active area?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
I had 14 Marines killed, 1 civilian law enforcement professional killed, and over 168 Marines wounded.
Wow. So it sounds like in 7 months there was a lot going on.
Oh yeah.
So what did you guys do? What was your job?
Well, to help stabilize, help the district governors establish themselves, rid the Taliban. So when we first got, especially Muskela, when we first got to Muskela, the Taliban was everywhere. There were very few locals. After our first month there, we were in multiple firefights, north and south, and basically cleared the district center of the Taliban. And we knew that for a fact because, one, some of the local villagers came out after one of the fights and said they're gone, they don't want any more of this. And then we saw trains of people in vehicles, wagons, you name it, moving up the Muskela River Valley with all their personal belongings, moving back in their houses. So it was a little bit different just because it was a little bit different fight at the time. That had happened right before us, and then it was more very much so an insurgency, which is what Musa-Kala turned into. But it was helping to establish the Afghan National Police, the Afghan National Army, and then getting the Taliban out of there, which we did a very good job of. The Taliban is, they're just brutal people. They'll kill anybody, they don't care. They would go head to head with us for maybe a day or two, and then they're out of there. They don't want to lose anymore, and then they resort to planting IEDs, and a lot of them.
Guerrilla type tactics.
Yeah, and the IEDs kill everybody. It doesn't matter. There's no discriminator on a pressure plate. It doesn't matter who steps on it, who drives over it. You know, they're getting blown up.
Wow.
So.
Did you get to know a lot of the local people there and
Yeah.
local leaders?
Yep.
What do you think is going to happen to those people?
One of them's already been, he was already attacked. The local police chief was attacked back in 2014, almost killed. He survived. Most of them will be executed, and their families will be executed.
Wow.
Outright.
Yeah.
If they were seen as helping coalition forces in any way, shape, or form, the Taliban will execute them. I think most Americans need to understand what that truly means, and I think they need to understand that you know, what they view as atrocities in this country pale in comparison to what true atrocities are. The utter lack of regard for human life by an organization such as the Taliban is unbelievable. Women, children, it doesn't matter. We saw it happen where they, you know, literally executed people. Blew little boys and little girls up. Doesn't matter. There's no regard for human life, and they are vicious, brutal murderers. It's the only way to look at it.
What are they trying to achieve?
Oh, control, and they want, you know, outright control. I mean,
is it a religious thing, or
absolutely, absolutely, Taliban associated with very extremist Islamic views, and they would like to see the caliphate happen. But I don't like saying the religious piece, because you can have extremism on the left or the right. You can be an extreme Christian, you can be an extreme Muslim. They are extreme Muslims, and they would like to see the Western world and everything associated with Christianity go away, period.
So they're not motivated by greed or wealth?
No. Although wealth drives them. I mean, Helmand Province in Afghanistan in general is the biggest, I think it's the #1 producer of opium in the world now. The poppy fields. I mean, where I was, poppy fields generated all the income.
So that's going on right while you're there protecting the production
absolutely.
of narcotics?
Absolutely.
That's legal there, I take it? Or?
Well, no, it's illegal, but how do you enforce it?
Yeah.
I mean,
That wasn't your job, I guess.
no, it wasn't our job, but that's what fuels the insurgency. And, you know, Americans are contributing to it. We don't get opiate addictions without opium.
Yeah. I just wonder if it was a coincidence that the resurgence of heroin in this country coincided with the arrival in Afghanistan.
I won't remark on it, but you can do your own research. Like I said, I think they're the #1 producer. That country is now the #1 producer of opium in the world.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think is the most important thing for Americans who might not be educated or up to speed on Afghanistan to know about what's going on there right now? What do they need to understand?
They need to understand that you have a terrorist organization that's taking control of the country, and they also need to understand that those that served over there did not die in vain. That sounds counterintuitive, but we did what we were asked to do and what we swore an oath to do to protect this country and Constitution of the United States. And there's, you know, as hard as it is to swallow, we don't, you know. America's not good at staying in places. Although I would say, you know, when you look at Japan, we've been in Japan since the end of World War II, and for some reason we have no issue staying there. You know, Afghanistan's a country we probably need to maintain a presence in for many, many years to come.
Yeah. So personally, what are your personal feelings, personal thoughts?
You know, I'm proud of what I did there with my Marines. I'm more proud of the how my Marines acted and what they accomplished. And I'll never forget the ones that have died, and so many others that sacrificed, limbs and other lives for the cause. I'll never forget them.